Alright, so let's get a little bit more complicated here. We can get just a little bit more complicated. What if I wanted to graph, let's say we wanted to graph x, uh-oh, we're in green. I guess we'll stay in green. X minus y is greater than or equal to 0. We wanted to graph this. Alright, so this is what we're going to do. Now, of course, you can solve for y in this problem, right? Solving for y, you'd end up having x is greater than or equal to y. Of course, you could flip this around and say y is less than or equal to x. You could just say y is equal to x, and of course, we know what this graph looks like. Y is equal to x is going to be, right, it's going to be a line that looks like about like this, right? That's the graph of y is equal to x. Okay, but sometimes, doing this takes out a lot of time. So the best way to do this is probably this way right now. Okay, I just, I'm thinking I better not get too complicated too fast here. But you can look at the x-intercepts and the y-intercepts. That's where the graph crosses the x-axis and the y-axis. And then you can look at the slope of the line by just looking at these coefficients here and plugging things like 0 in for x. What is y going to be? You see, plugging 0 in for y, what would x be? So that would be finding the x and y intercept. Alright, well, this guy right here is in a standard form. That means that x is over here, y is here, and there's a positive coefficient in front of the x. Now, if we want to get these in standard form, okay, they may not be initially written in standard form, but we want to get them in standard form because that's going to help us to determine which side of this line needs to be shaded, the left side or the right side, or above it or below it, however you want to look at that. But think of this guy right here as being an arrow. So I'm going to put a dot here on the line. Notice that my arrow is pointing to the right. And that means that this side is going to be shaded. In other words, everything on this side of the line, should have probably done that in a different color. Everything on this side of the line is our solution to our inequality up here. If I were to pick a point, let's say right here, okay, we're going to pick a point on the x-axis and we'll call that point 2, 0. If I were to plug that in here, 2 minus 0 is 2, and 2 is greater than or equal to 0. Okay, so everything on this side of the line is our solution to our inequality. Alright, simple enough. I think we're due for a new one. Let's race. Alright. So we're going to draw up an XY axis. And let me just come up with one. Let's say we have 2x plus y is greater than or equal to 0, and we want to sketch the graph. So the first thing I'm going to do is sketch the line. Where is the line located? That's the deal. So we're going to find our x-intercept, and then we're going to find our y-intercept. So remember the x-intercept, that's where it crosses the x-axis. Okay, that's when y is 0. So we want to plug, let me just rewrite this. We want to plug a 0 in for y here, and then we want to solve for x. Well, it turns out that x is, it looks to me like x is equal to 0. When y is 0, x is 0. That's what it looks like. Okay, so we're looking at crossing through the origin right here. So our x-intercept is at 0. Okay, we should actually say that point. We should call this a point. So this would be 0, 0.